All right, we'll go ahead and call this session to order. Miss Perry, will you please call the roll for us?
Mayor Holly Berry.
Here.
Vice Mayor Stephanie Dalton.
Here.
Commissioner Jamie Fairbanks Harvey.
Here.
Commissioner Keith Phillips is absent. Commissioner Hayes Wilkinson.
Here.
All right. For today's invocation, please join me in a moment of silence to reverently collect our thoughts, pray, and ready ourselves for this meeting and the duties to which we have been called. Thank you. Mr. Brennan, will you please lead us in the pledge?
Mayor, it's my pleasure to invite Wyndham to join us. He is working on his Eagle Scout, and he's going to help me lead the group in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you very much for joining us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. It's exciting to have 2 Eagle Scouts in the house.
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
Oh, Bree, who's the third one?
Raise your hand.
You're looking at him.
Oh!
I did not know that.
Learn something new every day. 3 Eagle Scouts in the house. See, Eagle Scouts go places. All right. First item of business we have is consideration of the minutes for approval or correction. First, for the September 19th, 2023 work session, is there any corrections? If not, do I hear a motion to approve as written? We got a motion from Vice Mayor Dalton, got a second from Commissioner Fairbanks Harvey.
Sure.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have the minutes for the September 19th, 2023 commission meeting. Any corrections? If not, is there a motion to approve as written?
I'll move.
We have a motion from Commissioner Wilkinson. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
We have a second from Commissioner Fairbanks Harvey. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is my mayor's report. I wanted to say a thank you to the Small Cities Coalition for organizing a legislative luncheon this past week with many of our state representatives. It was an excellent forum to discuss many state-level issues affecting our local municipalities. Thank you to all the volunteers who attended the Stringers Ridge Cleanup Day last weekend for National Public Lands Day, and to all the individuals, public and private organizations that made Stringers Ridge a possibility 10 years ago. And finally, the next Red Bank Community Food Pantry will be this coming Thursday. I'm sorry, Vice Mayor, do you have the date on that? I failed to write it down this time. The 5th. That's right. This Thursday, October 5th, from 4:30 to 6 p.m. They can always use more volunteers. Find a link to their sign-up genius at redbankfoodpantry.org. And next we have our report from Vice Mayor Dalton.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Got a little bit to talk about. In case you missed it, every household can now go to covid.gov/test to order 4 more free COVID-19 rapid tests that will ship through the United States Postal Service. Just last week, a neighbor put in a work order requesting that the faded signs for school zone times in the Alpine Crest Elementary neighborhood be replaced, and wouldn't you know it, our awesome Public Works team has already completed the job. On behalf of that neighbor and our entire school community and community at large, I just want to thank you all for everything you do for our city. The city just wrapped up its first ever Pollinator Bio Blitz event here in Red Bank, which was organized by the National Recreation and Park Association. Through the city's pollinator project on the iNaturalist app, community members identified 26 different plant and creature species. My son and I, along with Mayor Berry and her son, walked White Oak Park and the White Oak Connector Trail and had fun spending time just really observing our environment. And I'm looking forward to future events like this that get more folks outside into our natural spaces. This past Thursday, I attended the Chattanooga Design Studios Civic event featuring Jeff Speck as the guest speaker. If you don't know who Jeff Speck is or what he wrote about in his book, Walkable City, How Downtown Can Save America One Step at a Time, then please take some time to look him up. He's a city planner and urban designer who is internationally renowned for his decades of work, research, and consulting with cities to make their communities more walkable and connected. I also was pleased to see our community, Red Bank City Planner Michael Pham attended the event. Mr. Speck's talk centered around things like car-centric city design, urban sprawl, mixed zoning, parking minimums, and road design and their impact on walkability and connectedness. And speaking of connection, I had an incredible morning at the Walden's Ridge Park grand opening this past Saturday alongside Mayor Barry and Commissioner Wilkinson, after which we went for a little walk on one of the trail loops. There were so many folks involved in this 7+ year labor of love. But I have to give 3 very special shout outs to some Red Bank neighbors who were key players in the development and opening of this park. First and foremost, Tim Larimore, who is the executive director of the North Chickamauga Creek Conservancy, was part of this project from day 0. We have Gaston Farmer, who is the conservation project manager for the Land Trust for Tennessee, without which this park wouldn't have been possible. And Gaston also happens to be one of our recently appointed Parks and Recreation Advisory Board members. And finally, our own city commissioner, Hayes Wilkinson, who volunteered his time to help develop the trails. So thank you all for your dedication to making this park a reality. That's right in our backyard with the lower entrance on Reeds Lake Road, just outside of Red Bank city limits. We had a great town hall meeting last night at Rivermont Elementary that was hosted by School Board Member Ben Connor and County Commissioner David Sharp. Lots of great feedback, questions, concerns, and ideas that I hope will help shape the conversation the school board ultimately has before voting on a school facilities plan. And speaking of school facilities, the school district itself is hosting a community input meeting tomorrow, October the 4th, from 6 to 7:45 p.m. at Red Bank Middle School, specifically to get feedback on the county mayor's proposal to consolidate 3 of 4 elementary schools, Alpine Crest, Rivermont, DuPont, and Hickson Elementary, into a new mega school built at the DuPont Elementary site. Please show up and make your voices heard. And finally, happy fall break to all of our students next week. Thank you.
Next, we have our report from Commissioner Fairbanks Harvey.
Thank you. Hello, Red Bank. Vice Mayor Dalton and I attended a Hamilton County Department of Education School Board meeting on Thursday, September 21st at 6 o'clock. There was an exchange, a lively exchange, positive exchange between us and the school board members. They had expressed gratitude for us sharing the resolutions from which we had created. And as Vice Mayor Dalton mentioned, the meeting tomorrow night at Red Bank Middle, 6 o'clock, for more input as we strongly desire to maintain an elementary school in Red Bank. Also, Vice Mayor Dalton and I have been invited to present the City of Red Bank's resolutions to the Hamilton County Commissioners next Wednesday at 9:30 a.m. at the courthouse. Red Bank High School plays its next home football game this Friday against Sequoia at 7 o'clock. Go Lions. And the next Listen and Learn will be held Monday, October 16th at Mr. Burrito from 6 to 7. Thank you.
Commissioner Phillips is absent, so next we have our report from Commissioner Wilkinson.
Okay. Yeah, so thank you guys for coming out tonight. Yeah, the Stringers Ridge cleanup went extremely well. Was that a week and a half ago? Yeah, there were probably 15 or so volunteers on the Red Bank side, and then another 30 plus on the Chattanooga side. So Stringers Ridge is looking great. Thank you guys for everybody who came out. The White Oak Bicycle Co-op partnered with Red Bank Elementary for a week of bicycle fun. All second graders participated in a bike safety educational program, and that included a bike playground course with obstacles mimicking the roads of Red Bank. All of these second graders received a free bike helmet courtesy of the Epilepsy Foundation of Southeast Tennessee. Additionally, for the White Oak Bicycle Co-op, there are 2 days left to vote for their partner, Bridge Outdoor, to win a $25,000 prize grant and a Land Rover Defender. You can vote for them at thebeth.org. Super awesome organization. So would highly recommend lending your vote. Yeah, as Vice Mayor said, the Walden Ridge grand opening was on Saturday. There were a lot of it was a big process to get it all together. So congratulations to everybody who had a hand. And those organizations include Hamilton County Parks, North Chick Conservancy, SORBA, Southeastern Climbing Coalition, Land Trust for Tennessee, and all the volunteers who came out. It's going to have a huge impact on our region, and I am excited to see the economic benefit that we can receive as a city. And it's awesome just to go. You look at it right down Morrison Springs, and you're like, "Oh wow, there it is on the mountain. It's awesome. Go check it out." Okay, that's what I got. Thank you, guys.
All right. And next we have our city manager's report from Mr. Martin Granum.
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioner, you can also vote for White Oak Bike Co-op. There's a link on our city website. as well. Yes,
Awesome.
so you
Even
can
better.
vote there. And Commissioner Fairbanks, Harvey, what date is your list on there again?
October 16th, Monday, October 16th.
Okay, thank you. I too attended the ribbon cutting, but I attended the lower version. There was an upper ribbon cutting off the W, and there was a lower ribbon cutting off of Reed's Lake, and I did the lower one. It was packed. The parking lot was packed. They were parked on the roads. It was a lot of fun. I went back the next day and ran it, and when we got there at the crack of dawn, there was nobody there. And by the time we left, an hour and a half later, the parking lot was half full. It's going to be a grand slam. It's just a destination for runners and bikers and people who just want to get out. It's beautiful. It's stunningly beautiful, particularly up along the top, along the W. So that's my clip. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. The procurement is underway, seeking proposals for a Red Bank comprehensive plan to include a small area study of the former Red Bank Middle School site, located at 3715 Dayton Boulevard for the city of Red Bank, Tennessee.
Woohoo!
Yes.
All right.
I would say this moment's been a decade in the making, even longer, really, when the city and the school district started conversations about rebuilding Red Bank Elementary School, Red Bank Middle School, I'm sorry. And here we are on the precipice of making informed and decision about what that site will become. So we're at the very leading edge of that. On point is Deputy Public Works Director Leslie Johnson, and the request for proposal is out formally being advertised. For more information on that, you can check out our webpage. We anticipate a fairly aggressive timeline in order to onboard the successful offer before the holidays. So what I'm speaking about here is just the procurement phase, not the public engagement phase. That all happened after this. But what we're doing right now as staff is we're onboarding the consultant that will help us run this process that the community's been anticipating really for a decade. Just as important, but on a smaller scale, we have invited the Municipal Technical Advisory Service to take a look at our finance department and advise us on how we are organized, staffed, and preparing ourselves for the needs of today and tomorrow. Stay tuned for feedback coming from John, Tracy, and I as this staff assistance visit unfolds. We are scheduled for an in-brief on Monday, the 16th of October with Hannah Rogers and other subject matter experts from MTAS. Also, our IT manager, Stacy Bradley Rump, was a keynote speaker at the 2023 Chattanooga Technology Excellence Awards Gala last week, where she spoke powerfully about the networking, mentoring, professional development, encouragement, and camaraderie she has experienced since joining that organization, and how important it was to make herself ready to take her IT career to the next level, which brought her to us as the City of Red Bank's first ever IT manager. Stacy was here earlier, but I just want to say for the record, way to go, Stacy. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Now we will have a temporary adjournment of our regular session in order to convene our beer board hearing. So we'll have Ms. Perry call the roll for us once again.
And Mayor Barry,
Here.
Vice Mayor Dalton.
Here.
Commissioner Fairbanks Harvey.
Here.
Commissioner Phillips is absent. Commissioner Wilkinson.
All right, we have new business today. An application for an on-premise beer permit by Mario Enrique Tax Garcia, Family Tax LLC, DBA Sabor Modern Latino and Sushi, located at 1800 Dayton Boulevard, Red Bank, Tennessee. And I believe the applicant is present. Feel free to come on up. I just want to say welcome, and we are excited to have your business here in Red Bank, and your Gallo Pinto is delicious.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So I hear you're looking to serve beer on premises.
Yes, I applied for the beer permit. I got the application and I read all the rules.
Okay. Can I be nosy and ask which beers you might be serving?
Compromises.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which beer do you know? Have you picked out what brand of beer you're going to sell?
Well, if we can, we trying to put like Costa Rica food. I mean the Costa Rica beer, but we seeing if we can get it.
Ooh,
Yeah, it's,
exciting. All right. Do we need to have any formal language, Mr. Stolz?
We would customarily ask Mr. Garcia if he read and understands the Red Bank beer ordinance and if he has any questions about
Great. Have you read and understand the Red Bank beer ordinance?
yes, I have read it.
Okay. And do you have any questions?
Well, not really. I mean, I read all of it, and it says about all the premises, so I understand everything.
Okay. Excellent.
it. And may I?
Please.
And you understand all about the age of persons that you would be serving alcohol to. And you need to be really, really vigilant about making sure that no one is underage is served.
Yes. I do.
Okay? Just so that you understand that and you know that the city police chief, who's been talking a lot here this evening, earlier, they pretty appropriately enforce the beer regulations about underage sales. Just make sure, there's almost never a problem with the applicant, but sometimes the employees get everybody in trouble. Just keep them close walk. I don't mind getting carded by anyone, even as old as I am.
All right. Thank you very much. Is it Mr. Do you prefer Mr. Garcia or Mr. Tax Garcia?
Mr. Tax.
Mr. Tax.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Tax.
you.
All right. So we have a simple vote. Yes. Okay. In that case, well, do we have a motion and?
Motion
Yep.
approved.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the application?
I'll motion to approve.
We have a motion from Vice Mayor Dalton. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
We have a second from Commissioner Wilkinson. Any further discussion? All right. Any comments? Oh,
Oh,
Mr.
wait,
Schultz?
vote, sorry.
Okay. Any comments from the residents present? Okay, if there are no more comments, then we'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Cannot wait. I hope I can try some Costa Rican beer.
Thank you.
Mr. Tax, your application is approved, and you can pick up the license at City Hall tomorrow. All right. Don't sell any beer tonight.
After business hours. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you so much.
Tax. All right, we will go ahead. Do I have a motion to adjourn the beer hearing?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion from Vice Mayor Dalton, the second.
I'll second.
Second from Commissioner Fairbanks Harvey. All in favor?
Aye.
Beer board is hereby adjourned. We will now reconvene our regular meeting, and we'll move on to unfinished business. First, we have ordinance number 23-1247. An ordinance of the City of Red Bank, Tennessee, amending the zoning ordinance and maps of the city to rezone property located at 119 and 121 West Ridgewood Drive from R1 residential to C1 commercial, second and final reading. Ms. Johnson.
Thank you. This ordinance comes to you, as you stated, for its second and final reading. It has had its public hearing. It also comes to you fully vetted through the planning commission with their recommendation in support of the rezoning. The applicant is actually here this evening if there are any questions for him. This parcel, at the end of the day, will be incorporated into the overall plat of the site that's being developed now, the said lot. Not sure what the new name is, but that's what we've been referring to it, just so that we have orientation in the city.
And the lot lines will be dissolved once it
Correct.
happens. All right, do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll move.
We have a motion from Vice Mayor Dalton. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
I have a second from Commissioner Wilkinson. Any further discussion or questions for the applicant? No? Any comments from the residents present? Okay, if there are no more questions, then we'll go ahead and have Ms. Perry call the vote for us.
Mayor Barry,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dalton,
Yes.
Commissioner Fairbanks Harvey,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips is absent, Commissioner Wilkinson.
Yes.
Motion carries on second and final reading. Thank you very much for being here. Next unfinished business is ordinance number, I believe this is 1248.
Yes.
Okay, an ordinance of the city of Red Bank, Tennessee, amending ordinance number 15-1020 titled the Red Bank zoning ordinance to amend chapter 2, general regulations, section 14-209, changes and amendments, second and final reading.
Thank you.
That's a mouthful.
Again, this ordinance comes to you as a second and final reading. It has passed its public hearing. It does come from the planning commission with the recommendation of approval. The heart of the ordinance is really some housekeeping efforts. There's language in regards to public hearing requirements. The current regulation reads commission, and that has been a little bit misunderstood between planning commission and city commission. This ordinance before you does clarify and identify the city commission as the authority over public hearings.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll approve.
We have a motion from Commissioner Fairbanks Harvey. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
We have a second from Commissioner Wilkinson. Any further discussion? Any comments from the residents present? If there are no more comments, Ms. Perry, will you call the vote for us?
Mayor Barry,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dalton,
Yes.
Commissioner Fairbanks Harvey,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips is absent, Commissioner Wilkinson.
Yes.
All right, motion carries on second and final reading. Moving on to new business, we have agenda item number 23-874, Red Bank representation at the Chattanooga-Hamilton County, North Georgia Transportation Planning Organization and the Technical Coordinating Committee. Mr. Graham, does this require any action or is it simply a notice?
It's simply a notice, but I'll just take a moment to explain. There's a variety of mechanisms for the commission to take action. An ordinance which becomes law, a resolution which is not quite as impactful, but makes decisions, and proclamations with state intent. This particular item is called an agenda item, and it allows us to formally track this process through the commission in a public way. And the reason behind it is the TPO and the TCC are public meetings and they need to establish a quorum. So this appoints formally the mayor as the designated representative for the TPO executive board. It appoints Director of Public Works Greg Tate to the Transportation Coordination Committee, and it appoints Deputy Public Works Director Larry Johnson as the designated alternate for both. And she replaces me. So thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, I was gonna say rather reappoints Mayor Barry and
Yes.
Mr. Tate, and then, yes, a new appointment with Ms. Johnson. as the
Correct.
backup.
All right.
Thank you.
Any questions on that agenda item? Okay, I'll move on to our next item of new business. Resolution 23-1619, a resolution by the Board of Commissioners of the City of Red Bank, Tennessee, to proclaim October 8th through 14th, 2023 as Fire Prevention Week. And we have Captain Hamill here to tell us more.
Good evening, how are y'all?
Good
Good
evening.
evening.
Good. How are you?
So the first Fire Prevention Day was started in 1920 by President Woodrow Wilson. It's in commemoration of the Great Chicago Fire of 1871. The National Fire Protection Agency is celebrating 100 years of participating in Fire Prevention Week. This year's theme is Cooking Safety Starts With You. We're doing 8 events, reaching around 700 people. We did 90 this morning at White Oak Baptist. We have 30 coming to Station 1 at 7:30 tonight. The Chambliss Center, we're doing it Wednesday. Alpine, we're doing it Thursday morning and Thursday night for the Fall Festival. Friday, we're doing Red Bank Baptist. Next Monday, we're doing Ultimate Success Karate Day. And next Tuesday, we're doing Red Bank United Methodist.
We have a packed week.
Fantastic.
Oh, yeah. We love Fire Prevention Week. We get to get out, everybody gets to see us. We get to show our toys off. It's fun for us.
All right. Shall we have him read the ordinance or the resolution first before the motion? Okay. Are you up for reading it?
Sure. I'm sure if I have it.
We got a copy we can give you. There's a lot of whereases, I will warn you.
Yeah. Thank you, Captain. I appreciate it right here. And continues on to the next page.
All right. A resolution by the Board of Commissioners of the City of Red Bank, Tennessee, to proclaim October 8th to the 14th, 2023 as Fire Prevention Week. Whereas the City of Red Bank is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in and visiting our state, and whereas fire is a serious public safety concern by locally and nationally, and homes are the locations where people are at greatest risk for fire. Whereas home fires killed more than 2,800 people in the United States in 2021, according to the National Fire Protection Agency, and fire departments in the United States responded to 338,000 home fires. Whereas cooking is the leading cause of home fires in the United States, and fire departments responded to more than 166,400 annually between 2016 and 2020. Whereas 2 of every 5 home fires started in the kitchen, with 31% of those fires resulting from unattended cooking, and more than half of reported non-fatal home cooking fire injuries occurred when the victims tried to fight the fires themselves. And children under 5 face a higher risk of non-fire burns associated with cooking than being burned in a cooking fire. Red Bank residents should turn pot handles toward the back of the stove. Always keep a lid nearby when cooking. Keep a 3-foot kid-free zone around the stove, oven, and other things that could get hot. Watch what they heat and set a timer to remind them that they are cooking. And residents who have planned and practiced a home fire escape plan are more prepared and will therefore be more likely to survive a fire. Working fire alarms cut the risk of dying in reported home fires almost in half. And Red Bank's first responders are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire injuries through prevention and protection education. And Red Bank residents are responsive to public education measures and are able to take personal steps to increase their safety from fire, especially in their homes. And the 2023 Fire Prevention Week theme, Cooking Safety Starts With You, pay attention to fire prevention, effectively serves to remind us to stay alert and use caution when cooking to reduce the risk of kitchen fires. The Board of Commissioners of the City of Red Bank, Tennessee hereby designate the week of October 8th through 14th, 2023 as Fire Prevention Week in the City of Red Bank. We urge all citizens of Red Bank to plan and practice a home fire escape for Fire Prevention Week 2023 and to support the many public safety activities and efforts in the Red Bank Fire Department.
Thank you, Captain Hamill. And on the spot, no less. All right, do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll move.
We have a motion from Vice Mayor Dalton. Do I hear a second?
I'll second
We have a second from Commissioner Wilkinson. Any further discussion? That was very helpful information. Actually, keeping the lid by the stove is something that I can't say that I practice at home. And I'm gonna have to start doing
The
that.
easiest way to put a fire out.
I do set
Cover
the
it.
timer. Yeah,
I do set
I have
timers.
to
Yeah.
remind myself.
Absolutely. We appreciate the practical steps. Any comments from the residents present? If there are no more comments, then let's go ahead and call the vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion, oh, do you have something to add, Commissioner?
Mayor, I'd just like to note that there's a special fan of Captain Josh Hamill in the house.
So thank you to Captain Hamill for his excellent performance today. We appreciate you. All right, motion carries. We're looking forward to seeing our fire department out in the community. Next, we have resolution 23-1620, a resolution by the Board of Commissioners of the City of Red Bank, Tennessee, to proclaim October 28th as National First Responders Day. Chief Seymour.
And Captain Josh Hamill's gonna come up here with me.
He
Well, I was gonna read it, but I was actually gonna.
Captain Hay will read this one again.
did such a good job.
This is a lot of words on this one. Yeah, we like recognizing employees, right? And in our different departments. Part of this is our effort as a city to honor and recognize our workers in different departments. So this year, we're want the city to acknowledge the work that the first responders do for the city of Red Bank. And with permission, I guess I'll go through all the whereases.
Please.
Resolution number 23-1620, a resolution by the Board of Commissioners of the City of Red Bank, Tennessee, to proclaim October 28th, 2023 as National First Responders Day. Whereas emergencies can occur at any time that require police, fire, or emergency medical services. And whereas when an emergency occurs, protection of life and property is critical. And whereas on National First Responders Day, we honor the bravery of our heroes who put their lives on the line for their fellow Americans each day and every day. From law enforcement officers who keep our streets safe to firefighters who rush into burning buildings and other public health workers who provide life-saving emergency care at a moment's notice. When tragedies strike, these men and women are always there to help us, and we thank them for their extraordinary service to our community. Living a life of service and sacrifice is not just what first responders do, it is who they are. And whereas we ask more of our first responders today than ever before. Being a police officer not only means keeping our community safe, but also acting as a counselor and a social worker. Being a firefighter means not only combating fires in homes and businesses, but also suiting up to fight raging wildfires in neighboring communities, made more frequent and ferocious by the climate crisis. Throughout the pandemic, medical teams and community health workers have been on the front lines, working around the clock to save lives. Yet, even when first responders are stretched thin, their courage and commitment to service never wavers. And whereas today and every day, our first responders remain on alert and on call, always there for us when we need them. As we celebrate these patriots who have answered the call of duty, we honor the memory of the heroes we have lost. They are woven into the fabric of our character, embodying the extraordinary selflessness, rare commitment to others, and remarkable bravery that has inspired us for generations. Our first responders remind us that we are a great city because we are made up of good people. Let us renew our commitment as the City of Red Bank to standing by them and their families just as they stand by us, shaping a stronger, safer, and more resilient America. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Commissioners of Red Bank, Tennessee, hereby proclaim October 28th, 2023 as National First Responders Day, enjoying and honoring the men and women whose diligence and professionalism keep our country and citizens safe. Resolved this third day of October 2023. Mayor Holly Berry, City Recorder Tracy Perry.
Thank you, Chief Seymour. Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll move.
We have a motion from Vice Mayor Dalton. Do I hear a second?
Any comments? Oh, I'm so sorry.
We have a second for Commissioner Fairbanks Harvey. All right. Any further discussion or questions for the chief?
No, but thank you for all you do. It's an incredible help that you give us.
More so than ever. Any comments from the residents present? Okay, if there's no more comments, then we'll go ahead and call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We are ready to celebrate. Next, we have Resolution 23-1621, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Red Bank authorizing the Chief of Police to collaborate and accept a portion of the State of Tennessee Office of Criminal Justice Program Fiscal Year 2023 Violent Crimes Intervention Fund Grant, VCIF, from the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office. Welcome back, Chief.
Thank you. I should have just probably started. So, I know we had a lot of discussion and presentation during the work session, and a lot of good discussion, a lot of good questions. I just want to kind of review a little bit about that for maybe those that came in that didn't have an opportunity to hear kind of what we're talking about. So really, what's on the agenda today is a resolution for us to participate in a collaborative grant that was filed by the Hamilton County Sheriff's Department along with other area agencies. The Hamilton County Sheriff's Department submitted that to the state and it was approved. It's a non-matching grant for 100% reimbursement. Our part of participation in this grant will allow the installation of automated license plate readers on State Route 8, which is the south end of Dayton Boulevard, Signal Mountain Road, and Signal Mountain Road out towards Baylor. On those portions alone. This is a state grant, and because it's a state route, we have to have permission from the local governing body that the Tennessee Department of Transportation requires, because we have to give their approval, but before we can get their approval, we have to get approval from our local bodies. This grant does cover the cost and maintenance and installation for these cameras for 5 years. The grant funds will be managed by the Sheriff's Department, so there's no funds that coming in. They actually make the purchases and then they distribute them, and then we coordinate them at our locations, which have been predetermined because those locations have to be submitted. So as you know, there's a lot of crime going on in Chattanooga. There's crime here. A lot of times they cross lines, and that was kind of the idea behind the grant, was collaborating with multiple agencies in the area to help reduce those violent crimes and to increase some of the prosecutions of those cases. Because we found out, we've had violent crimes here in Red Bank. They're around us, they drive through, some of them stay here, go in other areas and commit those crimes. We need to be able to track them and be able to investigate them. And so that's a lot of it. They cross these center lines and these boundaries. And they don't know really where city limits are, but they can. But what crimes they commit in one city, they can commit in another. Many of our communities and other agencies in the area participate in this and already have some of those cameras. But the idea of these ALPRs, a little bit about them, is what they do is they scan for license plates and they compare them to a database of information in our criminal justice systems. They're looking to see if they're stolen, if it's part of an Amber Alert when there's a child that's been abducted. They also look for silver alerts for any older individuals that have issues, cognitive issues that we need to be on the lookout for. Those we might be looking for that have open warrants for aggravated assault or robbery, or a crime was committed in our city, but as the investigation goes, we're trying to look for that vehicle or try to get a license plate number. Maybe we'll have a partial number so we can look into the database and see. And what it does, it kind of stores those tags and information. It doesn't store your individual owners like date of birth, social security numbers, and address. It does not do that. Although officers can use that information to then check the law enforcement computers and criminal justice computers to be able to get that information as well. There are protocols set in place. The data by state law has to be purged no more than 90 days. So all that information tag stuff that's not used has to be purged as well. It has to be used for criminal justice purposes. It can't be used for personal gain or anything. There has to be a purpose behind that. It's not open for public record or public inspection. People off the street can't come in and try to track somebody else and use those systems for that. And also in these types of things, there's also regarding security and protocols and privacy, there are protocols in there that anytime an officer logs a tag when you're trying to check a tag or do a search, it creates an audit trail. So these trails are created to where an administrator can go back to the system if they think they have somebody maybe violating the policy. And so they can go through there and check to see what individuals are doing or what they are running. So we have access to that. So that's very limited. Usually be like myself, one or two people that would have access to be able to do that, like myself or the deputy chief. So One of the citizen comments kind of prompted that to say that's one of the things that might help with some of those security concerns. We already have a policy that kind of limits the use and restricts the use, just like other criminal justice information that we deal with every single day. We get out here and we run tags on these cars, we run vehicle identification numbers, we check individuals. All that is, secure, and we have to have criminal justice information for that. Even those systems have audit trails. We have systems that when an officer runs a tag or through a database, through another software, through a dispatch system or whatever, all those are logged in those attempts to help alleviate any problems if somebody's using them for personal gain or anything like that. So we have those. Currently, the city of Chattanooga, city of Collegedale, East Ridge, Saudi Daisy's moving towards it, Hamilton County, Tennessee Highway Patrol, Chattanooga Housing Authority. I didn't mention them. All of them have these cameras currently, but not all of those agencies are participating in this grant. There's been several success stories, even in our area. I've got tons of information. You can Google that information. Obviously, I don't want to rehash all that. Participating, the agencies that are kind of collaborated to participate in this grant include the Sheriff's Department, who's serving and volunteered to be kind of the administrator of the grant. The Chattanooga Police Department, the Chattanooga Housing Authority Police Department, East Ridge Police Department, Signal Mountain Police Department, and then us. In my opinion, I think it is very beneficial for investigative purposes for our agency to identify these criminals that are coming in our city, leaving our city, that are crossing these lines, and for us to help investigate some of these crimes. Part of my concern is all these other agencies have these cameras or are moving towards them. And then what I'm afraid of, there might be a pocket within Hamilton County that doesn't have them. And, I don't know, I can't predict the future. I can only know from my history in law enforcement and, and all what could happen with that. And, I have concerns that this could be a magnet or dumping ground if there's not in there. And I'm not saying that to try to put pressure on you. Of course, you're aware that is just a concern of mine that I'm concerned with. So this grant is kind of for 5 years, or it covered the grant period is 3 years. But what this does, it pays those costs for the installation and maintenance and all that for about the life of the hardware, which we've been told is about 5 years. The vendor we are using, we were restricted on who we could use. So it is the state set out, you had to use their state contract vendor who they approved to do these in the state. Since we looked at this, I think the state might have added one more on there, but we were already in the process of this and they were in the process of that. So the state kind of limited it and looked at some of the provisions and their requirements and all that. So this vendor has met some of those. So that's just kind of a basic rundown. I know a lot of that was repetitive from earlier, but hopefully that's helpful and beneficial to anybody that might be new in the room or listening to the YouTube. So.
Did you mention before if there were any other municipalities in our area who have utilized these with what their success rate might have been?
Well, I did. I mentioned several instances where recent, like the Sheriff's Department and some of their arrests of some stolen vehicles that they've had on the license plate readers. East Ridge had many. Just one recently was they ran down at a restaurant in there where there were some wanted individuals with some guns and drugs and information like that. I did mention about, of course, there's municipalities and cities all across Tennessee and even, the country that have success stories. And that's what I got 2 or 3 pages here, but I didn't want to, I thought that might be a little bit of an overkill for you, but I came prepared.
So
Mount Juliet reduced their crime rate by 48% by doing these. Nashville went up and they went down. I'm not saying that we have that crime rate that they did, but this could help reduce some of that and also help with investigations, things like that.
So it does run out of state tags
yes,
as well.
right.
In our
And,
area.
You know, there's association with other criminal groups, and that was kind of part of the scope of this grant that they wrote up is, you know, when you get into organized crime and criminal activity, there's other groups from other cities that come here, right? And, you know, we oftentimes will find where vehicles are stolen from other states and they're dumped here. You know, we have a certain area in here and several locations to where officers will go through and they'll actually, you know, that car looks a lot of place and they'll run the tag and they find out that it was stolen, but it's just been dumped here. It might not have been stolen here in Red Bank, but it was dumped here. Now, we're not the only agency that happens to. Other agencies that happens to, you know, already. I'm hoping with the use of this technology that others have seen, agencies and all, the importance of it and how beneficial it's been, is that we can use that in the same regard.
Thank you.
Chief, who ultimately signs the user agreement with Motorola? Is it us? Is it like Hamilton County Sheriff's Office? Is it the state who awarded the funds? Do you know?
My understanding is like the purchasing and all that would be the sheriff's department. I could be wrong, because they are funding it and they're paying for it and they're ordering it, but they're kind of doing it by proxy. They're doing it kind of for us instead of having 5 or 6 individual agencies funneling different money. It's a lot easier for accounting purposes to go to one place. And so my understanding is they would do that. I haven't been told or informed that I can recall. We've had several meetings on it that we would be required to sign documents on that. Although realistically, part of me would believe that because we would kind of be responsible for our own cameras and the management of the software from that end for our investigative purposes and all, that I would think there would be some agreement or use agreement with the vendor for us to be able to do that, kind of set it up independently with that. So, but that's a good question. So I don't have a clear 100% answer on that, but
Okay.
I would think we would end up probably having to sign something. It would kind of make sense, but
Okay.
I don't think there's any. I don't think there's any commitment for like funds, like we're committing to spending, you know, and all that. I think all that's kind of the sheriff's department. So.
You had something.
Yes,
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. I was going to ask if you could touch on again what you talked about in the work session about how it would work if, you know, something was pinged.
Sure.
You said you can't, you know, use that to go out and then like
Sure.
engage and arrest that person or whatever. Like what's that look like?
Sure. So law enforcement has to work, you know, under the law, right? Probable cause, reasonable suspicion. So we have to have more than a gut hunch to disrupt somebody's civil liberties, right? To detain them, and it's temporary or whatnot, right? So the idea is because there are issues, there can be issues because the data is entered by humans, right? And so human error, you know, there's errors that are made, just like whether it's any court document, any city documents that we do.
No, there's
right?
no errors in this.
Well, so
Obviously.
I did see a comma was out of place there. So so because of that, so there's usually like software in the cars, the way most of these work, there's software and then it sends out an alert, right? So the officer can start looking for it, you know, whatnot. So when they do, they have to take other measures before they can just stop the car. They can't stop the car based on the hit from these license plates. So what we do then is the officers will take the tag and run it through the actual criminal justice through our dispatch center to verify that, yes, this is in fact stolen, or yes, that tag accurately comes back to an endangered person, kidnapping, or, you know, whatever it is. You know, even a lot of the times, like the Amber Alerts kidnappings, a lot of times parents taking taking children and you know, and that's just horrible. And so, you know, anyway, so we get those alerts, and so they have to run the tag and verify that information before stopping the cars. And then, so then they, and it's just it's a tool. It's just a step in the whole process of investigative nature, right? So that's kind of the beginning of it. So they can't just act on the actual ping, automatically go stop a car, you know, and then give them the right to, you know, go in somebody's house because there's a car out there that hit on this, you know. They run the tag, it came back stolen, yeah, they might knock on the door, but, you know, we still get into our search warrant laws and rules that we have to follow, for sure. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank
But
you.
there's a reason that it got pinged originally, but it's in the database.
But it does, and it is attached to, that it does compare it to the national database. And these are, they push or they sync, they do whatever. So often there's stuff about the hot list. So if we're investigating a crime here, but it's not enough to put it into the criminal justice program, we can put it into the camera system. So we have an armed suspect, all we have is a tag, and maybe the tag doesn't come back registered. So we can put that into the system to see if it came through. Is it anywhere? But those are investigative purposes, right? You have actual intelligence that's leading you to put that in there. So somebody saw that vehicle, that tag, or whatever, but what if it's the wrong vehicle, right? So that's why we have to take those steps to verify that information before we take any enforcement action, right? And to lead up to our probable cause, radio station, whatever level you are.
Mr. Granum, did
Thank
you
you.
have something to add?
I did, Mayor, thank you. I've been listening to the chief and the conversation, and I kind of wanted to synthesize this a little bit in the broader context. Governor Lee, some time ago, made available across the state grant money for violent crime. So the governor at the state level is focusing on violent crime. And that basically came out in two ways. Every agency got an allocation that was non-competitive. And that was based on crime statistics in that area. So about a year ago, Red Bank got our allocation of grant money based on, it was a dollar figure, and I think it was around $250,000. And this commission, at the request of the chief, used our allocation for staffing. And we onboarded a law enforcement officer for 2 years. That was a non-competitive grant. All you had to do was demonstrate how you were going to apply that money to violent crime. Then the other part of the statewide effort that again was focused from the governor on violent crime was for competitive grants. And the intent with those competitive grants was to foster interagency collaboration. That was the goal that they wanted to achieve with the competitive side. So here regionally, the sheriff's office volunteered to take point on this competitive grant process, and they sought to satisfy the collaboration requirement in this particular way by license plate readers that would be in multiple jurisdictions. And so this is kind of how these different intents behind the grant are playing out here in Red Bank. Essentially, what this means, but the issue for us here is it's simply really allowing the sheriff's office to come into our jurisdiction with the endorsement of the local governing body, this commission for Red Bank, and allowing them to roll out this collaborative, competitive grant focused on violent crime. The chief has been, I think, sharing with us that he sees great utility as, just for our agency, but the real intent is the collaboration that we're seeing with other agencies. As the city manager, what I would add to this conversation is, as a city, this is an opportunity for us to stay relevant in a national law enforcement trend. Technology, our officers wear technology, they drive around with technology. As the chief mentioned, we're taking in data through cameras and vests and cars all the time. And we've got a lot of tried and true methods to manage that appropriately with a lot of supervision and a lot of extra eyes on that. So I think the trustworthiness of our agency and the industry in general has been demonstrated. This is just a new dynamic. And I'm desirous of us onboarding this from the standpoint of it keeps our agency, our Red Bank Police Department, on par with this national emerging trend of license plate readers. It's a tool in our toolbox we don't have right now, and this grant offers that opportunity to get it without even having to pay for it. Or even do some of the procurement legwork. It's really all been done for us. Having said that, there's obviously a lot of concerns, and this is a new wrinkle, so it's certainly worthy of this commission's consideration whether we do it or not. But I just want to share with you kind of how I see it in the context of the governor's larger violent crime initiative.
Well, thank you for that bird's eye view. I think that's helpful. And I would say not just if we're talking about keeping our city on par, it's not just with a national level, but also with our immediate region, it sounds like, based on what the chief has told us today.
And we're talking about collaboration and all that, and our officers and detectives collaborate all the time. You know, we have the same, kind of mentioned that in the work session, some of it, but we have the same criminals that go through our jurisdictions, and so our detectives collaborate with other detectives from other agencies and pass on information, you know, and that's good. That's a good network, right? And so this is really no different. You're just collecting some information and data to help investigate and to collaborate with our partner agencies. And yes, and the sheriff's department was kind of on forefront on this and really kind of approached us and other agencies about, are we interested in doing this? This is what they were thinking to help fight against kind of the violent crimes that are occurring in our area. And, you know, we are a city within a city, which is very unusual. You know, we're surrounded by Chattanooga. So I just think it's important. So.
Any more questions for the chief?
And the domestic position has been filled and is at work currently.
Yes. So, well, speaking on our grant, yes, we filled that probably a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
And I think it was just the first couple of shifts. There's an aggravated domestic assault that went out even as they were going home, and they turned around and responded and been investigating it, you know, and all that. So it's already got them working.
Okay, sadly.
So, and we'll recognize them on the promotion and all that at another commission meeting.
Sure.
And we'll line that up yet. So.
Thank you.
We had a question earlier regarding the ongoing cost. So this grant fully funds the equipment in the first 5 years of maintenance on that equipment, at which time is considered end of life for that equipment. So as you said, this could be considered a pilot program. Data could be collected on the effectiveness of this. And then in 5 years, when the equipment reaches end of life, we would most likely come to a budget discussion about whether we want to continue the program or not with renewed equipment.
Sure.
Did you have some of those numbers on the cost if it were to be renewed?
I do, Mayor. You know, the actual estimated amount for 7 cameras, now I say 7, it sounds like a lot. Really, it's 4 locations because of the size of the lanes. They have to cover multiple lanes, so they have to angle them differently. But for 7 cameras, for maintenance, installation, warranty, software renewal, licensing, and all that, the estimation is about $65,000. And that's what it was. Now the resolution, I think I mentioned a little bit higher because I wanted to account for a variety of things that, well, now something's changed, it's a little more expensive, or with some of our backlog of getting hardware and stuff like that. So I didn't want to have to come before and ask. And really, it's not our money. I mean, it's grant money, right? So it's somebody's money, but not out of our general budget for Red Bank. So $65,000 for 5 years for 7 cameras.
In today dollars.
I'm sorry.
In today dollars.
In today dollars, but don't know what they'd be in, you know, right. one vendor, came in, kind of did a sales pitch. You could get about 4 to 5 per year for about $2,000-$2,500 a piece for a full year. So like 10,000 for maybe 5 years worth per camera. But technology changes, expenses changing. So that's just kind of an idea right on that. So, yeah.
Thank you. All right. Any more questions for the chief? All right. If there are no more questions, do I hear a motion to approve?
I move to approve.
I have a motion from Commissioner Fairbanks Harvey. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
We have a second from Commissioner Wilkinson. Any further discussion? It's a lot to consider. But I think considering the 5-year event horizon on the equipment, I think it does give us an opportunity to give it a test run and see how effective it is in our jurisdiction in particular. Any comments from the residents present?
For Suite 120 Sweet End Drive. The first thing that I noticed was that on the regular agenda, it doesn't mention license plate readers. It does mention it on the work session, but I think if we want everybody to be really well informed about this and not feel like they went up in secret, the regular session one should mention license plate readers. Am I wrong about that?
Oh, I do not see.
I might be, but I didn't see it on the regular.
I don't believe it's in the caption of the resolution, but.
Well, just something food for thought.
Yes.
The second thing was, as soon as I found out about this, I removed my tags because I thought they were going to be used for that purpose. I still don't know if they are or if they aren't, but if they are, there should be like a 90-day moratorium or something so people have a heads up. Otherwise, it's going to feel like it's the army of police officers just out getting people. And then lastly, I agree with Chief Seymour that we don't want to be the last place that doesn't have the cameras. I think that's a concern for sure. I also agree with the gentleman that spoke in the work session that there's no expectation of privacy in public, so I don't think there's a concern there. But I honestly, I don't think a lot of people in here are qualified on privacy law and data retention and stuff like that. So I looked up the ACLU's recommendations. They recommend that as a worst case scenario, data retention is held for 30 days. Best case scenario, like David said, is deleted after 3 minutes. So I've been offered almost no explanation as a resident why the city wants to hold on to my personal data for 3 times as long as what the ACLU describes as the worst case scenario. So I feel woefully underrepresented on this subject matter. And I think like we had a consultant for the wireless tower out back, kind of give us some ideas on like, what's best for the city of Red Bank. I think we could do something similar here. It's hard for me to bridge that gap. Worst case is three months and we're being held for 9 months. I'm just trying to understand that a little bit better. Thanks for your time, commissioners.
Thank you, Mr. Pertwee.
Okay.
Is there any other citizen comments? Vice Mayor?
So, okay. 30 days versus 90 days.
The
90 days is
policy
the
said
state
90
recommendation.
days. The
Yes.
ACLU's worst
Thank
case recommendation is 30.
Thank you. Okay, so yeah, just to clarify that, I got a little confused because you said months at the end. So could Chief Seymour, could you respond to the comment about using the license plate readers to read for expired tags, and then going out and using that to engage with folks in the community? Is the plan to do that?
I don't need I appreciate his comments, and I don't need a license plate reader to tell officers that a tag is expired. That's not the purpose of these. And honestly, I didn't even ask that question. I don't know if the system actually can do that or not, and I'm not saying they do or don't. I'm focused in on stopping all these stolen cars in our areas and running the tag, because going down the road, I can see if a tag's expired. Or if it's still the old green tag, right? And so, but going down the road, I can't tell is that somebody that just abducted somebody, is the car stolen? It does check for stolen tags, but, you know, an officer gets behind a car and they see the tag. And actually, a lot of officers, even if they see the tag is expired, most officers will go ahead and run the tag, because we know that sometimes those little tabs on there are stolen off other tags. And so sometimes that happens. So they run it through the computer to kind of verify and run it, or to make sure that that tag comes back on the correct vehicle. You know, so that's some of it. I understand that the 90 days, you know, as well. Right now, that's just what I've seen across the policies that I've seen. At some point, could we adjust it to less? You know, yes. At this point, I don't know what will work for us and what won't. That's kind of part of this, is to kind of evaluate it and see the benefits of it, and do, are we successful at that? Will it help us solve some crimes, or even prevent or reduce any type of robberies or stolen cars that we might have coming through the area?
Can I ask a more specific question about the expired tags? The database that's being referenced, that would send an automated alert to your officers to look into a plate. That database does not include expired tags. This is
Not that I'm aware
a
of.
crime-specific database.
Well, it checks the registration to like get hits on like stolen cars and the crime. You're looking for somebody that maybe has a warrant, and that's in the system, you know, active warrants. And then it's still the protocol of, if you locate that vehicle, you have to run the tag to make sure, you know, things like that.
I would be curious to find out whether or not expired tags warranted an automatic ping, if we can get that information in the future.
Sure. Like I said, that doesn't, just kind of reiterate that. To me, it does, even if it does, it doesn't make sense. I don't know that it's the best use of law enforcement's time to track down a car that has an expired tag, right? My focus is more than that, and most officers are. Now, you know, expired tag is the law, right? You have to abide by that, but it's just a checks and balances, right? So, you know, I don't know if an officer is going to try to track down an expired tag from a ping. That's a lot of work for expired tag, which likely they'll get a verbal warning anyway and say, all right, we get that taken care of, you know, or hey, this is the third time I've seen you out with this expired tag. You know, after a couple of months, right, you ain't got it fixed, so maybe here's your ticket. And then it gets into court, and the judge says, oh, you got it renewed. We'll just dismiss that, you know, so that's.
Yeah, it seems like the intention of this should match, you know, it's coming from the Violent Crimes Intervention Fund. So it seems like those two intentions should be aligned, right? I mean,
And that's an essence of this collaborative effort, right, is to reduce and fight the violent crimes that are in our community as a whole, here in the greater Chattanooga area.
Mr. Stolz, would it be within the commission's purview to make any kind of specification as to the data retention, or would that be considered an overstep for a staff, an issue that should be handled by staff?
I think the commission could request that be investigated, but as everything I've heard here tonight, I think informs me that that's something that we don't have any particular control over beyond I think the chief said 60, 90 days. Nothing more than 90 could be retained. So I think you could say that that's the way we wanted, that we, the city of Red Bank, wanted our data dealt with. I just don't know if that's something that can be dealt with in the agreement that the sheriff's department that's administering the whole program is doing.
What we're
I
actually,
do not know the answer.
what we actually have before us to vote on today
Yeah.
may not cover that information. Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any other further comments? Okay. And we've had, any more comments from the audience? We've had a few. Okay. If there are no more comments, then we will go ahead and call the vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we'll move on to Resolution 23-1622, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Red Bank, Tennessee, authorizing the purchase and installation of new playground equipment and accessories to replace the current playground at White Oak Park in the approximate amount of $163,000. I'll start over. $163,201.01 for the Public Works Department. Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
Thank you very much, and I will hone in on that number. It is very critical. Indeed, this is a budgeted item, and we budgeted $165,000 for the replacement of this playground equipment. So coming right in under budget is always a good thing. And this also is continuing our efforts toward our commission goal for Parks, Trails, and Recreation for the city. Unfortunately, the playground up at White Oak now has just lived its life cycle. No piece of equipment lasts forever. I'm sure you are aware, as well as the public, there's several pieces on the apparatus that we have now that are out of commission, not for a lack of interest or care from Public Works. It's just unfortunate due to the age of that structure, the replacement parts are just no longer available. So this is really addressing some safety issues up on the park property, as well as continuing our goal to really focus in on our parks, trails, and recreation.
Thank you very much. Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll move.
We have a motion from Vice Mayor Dalton. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Do you guys want to
Doesn't
party
have to
for it?
I'm very excited about this playground.
I'll,
Yeah, we're missing a slide. This is
I'll
great.
give it to Commissioner Fairbanks Harvey. Any further discussion or questions for Ms. Johnson?
Once the funds are officially approved, do you have an idea of when construction will start?
I do, and if we can get to the next item that
Sure.
actually deals with the games,
Okay.
grant. Yeah, there's
Great.
more to come.
Thank
More
you.
to come.
Yes.
Okay.
Excellent.
All right. Any comments from the residents present? If there are no more comments, then we'll go ahead and call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I will let Ms. Johnson tell us more. We have Resolution 23-1623, resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Red Bank, Tennessee, to authorize the City of Red Bank to accept the Game Time Playground Grant 2023 for the purchase and installation of new White Oak Playground replacement. Ms. Johnson.
Thank you. This item is in harmony with your previous item on the purchase of the equipment. We were able to submit for a grant application that goes towards some cost share for the playground equipment itself. What this allowed us to do was to take our budgeted funds for the replacement and add some more to it. So this did allow us to go a little bit bigger, a little bit more unique with some features. The structure that will be installed has inclusive features. Probably the most important and most opportune effort is the actual pour in place, the surface. As you know now, most of our playgrounds have the mulch bedding. It does require a lot of hands-on to make sure that the depth and that the spread is in compliance for playground safety. What the pour in place does is it allows different depths and measurements, depends on the type of the equipment that's being used, whether it's a slide or whether it's a swing. But that surface is very spongy when you walk on it. But it also opens the door for full accessibility to that structure. So when you put inclusive pieces in, we're not worried about getting someone from the sidewalk actually over to the structure itself. We're utilizing the same footprint for the park as it is now, but our staff will do the removal and get it site ready for the contract with Game Time, who also has licensed installers to bring it all to life. We have a deadline to actually purchase that piece of equipment by the end of this month, which is what's on your agenda tonight. And part of that grant process is to actually receive the shipment by December 31st. So that's what they anticipate the last day for delivery. Once we move forward, if you approve these resolutions as we've presented them, we start that order process to get ready. Something our park manager is doing as we speak, subject to approval tonight. We're going to release the schematic image of the piece that's been selected with some color options. So we're going to release that as a survey online. through our social media and our Facebook and our homepage to give the community an opportunity to check a box. Which color format do you like? So we'll have 3 options for the public to select from.
Excellent.
Yes.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll move.
I have a motion from Vice Mayor Dalton. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second from Commissioner Wilkinson. Any further discussion?
One quick question. What's the lifespan on the pour in place and the playground set in
The
general?
structure itself, we're
Yeah.
looking, right now, we anticipate that life cycle to be 20 plus.
Cool.
Pretty good.
Not bad. I like it.
All right. Any comments from the residents present? If there are no more comments, then we'll call the vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. New playground, here we come.
Yes.
All right, next we have ordinance number 23-1249. An ordinance of the city of Red Bank, Tennessee, amending the zoning ordinance and maps of this city to rezone property located at 210 Lowwater Road from L1 light manufacturing to RTZ townhome and 0 lot line residential pursuant to certain restrictions. Ms. Johnson.
Thank you. As we detailed in the work session, this particular piece of property at 210 is currently zoned L1, which is a light manufacturing district. The proposal on this ordinance is to rezone that to RTZ, which is townhome and 0 lot line residential. It does 2 things. First and foremost, it is cleaning up our zoning map to address and alleviate what is identified as spot zoning. Obviously, there's nothing else industrial happening in this area. The applicant has submitted through the Planning Commission his proposed plan for the development of his property. As he presented it with the map attachment that you see is for 4 single-family detached structures. The developer is here this evening. I'm going to hopefully give him an opportunity just to be heard. But looking at the ordinance itself and how the rezoning has been presented, as it reads in your RTZ, obviously the first title says townhomes. That does give the insinuation and the opportunity for multifamily and for density. The RTZ, as it's presented to you, does have conditions attached to it. The first one is meaning no use other than single-family detached residential shall be permitted. As I stated earlier, I appreciate the effort that the Planning Commission has gone through, that staff has gone through to get to this point. We also know moving forward through our comprehensive plan, we will start taking a look at our land uses, and that will also spark the assessment of our current zoning. As this is presented tonight, there are existing RTZ around this particular piece of property, so I think it is an appropriate zone. Where I do have a little bit of hesitation is the limitation on single family only. We have other zoning districts that are more harmony with that type of restriction. But given what's happening in this area, I think with RTZ without that restriction would be a little bit more flexible for development as it is relevant to the property at hand.
Single family detached.
Single family detached.
Which is what you brought up in the work session, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Because townhomes are still considered single family home.
Correct, yes. Townhomes are still single-family
Units,
occupied
yes.
units.
Right.
They just have shared walls.
Right,
And
okay.
again, it helps you reach that density on a piece
Right.
of property.
Okay.
Which may or may not be ideal for this piece of property.
Mhm.
But thinking in the future as something may change, ideas may come to the development of that property to increase density based on the conditions of the property. So to allow an RTZ, in my recommendation, would allow the uses as they exist in the zoning district and not exclude what is already identified as an allowed use
For that zone.
for that RTZ zoning district, yes.
Okay. The applicant is present. Would you like to add anything, sir?
Sure. I'm Steve Pickett. I've built a lot of houses in Red Bank the last 3 years. So I've been in the area for a while. I bought this lot 2 years ago from a gentleman. I guess he was trying to put a billboard on it for years or something. I think that's how I got the L1 designation. Anyway, I just noticed, to the left of me, there's RTZ zoning. To the right of me, there's RTZ zoning. And so as a compromise, because I knew that the people in the circle really didn't want any more houses up there. My property goes all the way up there. I figured the best use of that land would be to go to RTZ and come off of low water and not disturb anybody or the neighbors up on Linda Drive. So I put together a plan with engineering, come up with 4 RTZ lots that meet the requirements of Red Bank ordinances for that. I will be building single family homes, and I understand her point. This is the first I heard about that, but I'm fine with standard RTZ zoning, but my expertise in building is not townhomes. I've never done that. I typically build single family homes, and that would be my goal. So.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? No? Thank you very much.
Thank you for building them.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Pickett.
Mr. Pickett, you are, I believe, I think this was asked, and not that we can't place any requirement, but just out of curiosity, are you planning to sell these or rent them?
I don't do rentals. I'll be selling them.
Okay.
Yeah, I've had my taste at rentals.
Okay.
So, yeah, I got burned there. No, I sell pretty much all products that I build.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pickett. All right, do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
I have a motion from Commissioner Fairbanks Harvey. Before we continue, do we want to?
Oh, yeah,
Do we want
that's
to
what I was
present a
gonna ask.
motion with the amendment?
I think if we are thinking long-term, that it would be useful to go ahead and remove that now in case a change in use occurs on that property at some point down the line. It would already be set up for denser housing development.
Yeah, again, and my intent here is to not necessarily single out this particular development as it's proposed. I think it's going to fit. I think it will be nice. I just know in the future, as we see more rezoning requests that come forward the commission, to make sure that we are just zoning the property appropriately for its zoning district and those identified uses. Again, as I said, in this particular case, we may have had another option for a particular zoning district to put it to rezone it to rather than the RTZ. But again, with the focus being on density and multifamily living opportunities in the city, again, looking at RTZ and allowing those uses to happen and giving those developers those options. Economies change, things change, and there's a potential for something to change before the property actually gets developed. So I'm just thinking long-term on how we handle RTZ zoning requests when they come to us.
And disregarding the particulars of this one lot, and its intended use, the best practice is to not have any encumbrances, unnecessary encumbrances.
Correct.
Okay, given that, Commissioner Fairbanks Harvey, would you like to offer an amended motion, or would you prefer someone else do that?
It can be amended.
Okay, so do I hear a motion to approve the rezoning with the removal of condition A?
And condition B, because it references and attached, and it reads, shall be constructed substantially in accord with the preliminary site plan copy attached. You do vote to remove the single family only
The
details.
second B, I'm like
Second B.
A and the second B.
Okay.
A and BB.
Then I would recommend you remove the exhibit B as well.
Okay, so do I hear a motion to approve the rezoning without condition A and exhibit B?
Correct.
Second B.
Yes.
Okay.
We have a
I'll
motion to that?
No, it's the second B and exhibit B removal.
So A, second B, and exhibit.
Correct.
Yeah, make sure we get that right. Okay, now that we have that mouthful sorted, do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
We have a second from Commissioner Wilkinson. All right, any further discussion? Excited to see some more housing coming to Red Bank. I think that would be a good fit for that neighborhood. And thank you for your consideration of the neighbors on Linda Drive as well. Commissioner Wilkinson, seconded. All right, any comments from the residents present? If there are no more comments, then Ms. Perry, will you call the vote for us when you're ready?
Mayor Barry,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dalton,
Yes.
Commissioner Fairbanks Harvey,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips is absent. Commissioner Wilkinson.
Yes.
Motion carries on first reading and we'll have a second reading. Thank you very much, Mr. Pickett, for coming.
I just want to make sure.
On the 17th and the-
First reading only, public hearing will be on the 17th with second reading.
Yes, thank you very much, Ms. Johnson.
Thank you.
All right, we have one more item for a vote. Ordinance 23-1250, an ordinance of the city of Red Bank, Tennessee to repeal ordinance number 15-1036, the Red Bank Personnel Policies Ordinance, codified at Appendix A to the Red Bank City Code, together with all amendments thereto, and adopting a new employee handbook ordinance, codified at Appendix A to the Red Bank City Code. Excuse me. Ms. Perry.
Okay.
We didn't get to this in the work session, so tell us all about it.
Well, our last amendment was in 2015, and we've taken a look at it. The significant changes, we made the handbook feel more like instructions rather than discipline. Standards and procedures are advertised outside and inside the organization. Currently, this moves employees into an HR-oriented workplace. Reduce the hours required to be full-time to 30 hours per week. Rehires are now eligible to offer full restoration of benefits in place when they left employment. As in, if they were already accruing 12 hours of vacation, when they come back, they'll start accruing 12 hours again. Mid-career hires have the ability to negotiate their benefits. As in, like, Officer Harding, he has a long history in police work, so we felt like he should be, what's what we're looking for.
Mid-career, recognized, mid-career.
Recognized, that's what we're recognized as having a good career, and he should be, have a little bit higher benefits than a new person. We replace the wording demotion with reclassification. Holiday pay is just for employees working other than a Monday through Friday regular shift. Change work status requirements to receive overtime pay. Longevity has been revamped, offering more incentives to your Red Bank employees. Giving more weight to the higher education tuition reimbursement that's been in the book for a while. City vehicles will now be allowed to be driven across Tennessee state line. We added Juneteenth as a city observed holiday, adjusted vacation accrual rates for non-8-hour shifts, and changed sick leave donation requirements. So employees that have left employment and return are entitled to reinstatement of the following benefits: vacation with leave accrual and longevity will be calculated to include their previous employment. Mid-career hires, as I said, are now able to negotiate vacation leave accruals. For holiday pay, the manual has been kind of centralized on the 8-hour employees. We don't all work 8 hours. So in the case of shifts over 8 hours, like police and fire, they shall receive 12 hours of pay at the regular rate of pay for each holiday versus the 8. In 24-hour shifts, which are fire only, wishing to take off their entire shift, have the option with supervisor approval to take the entire shift off. They'll get their 12 hours for the holiday pay and they'll have to use 12 hours of vacation. But that's all supervisory approved. Overtime pay. Currently, non-exempt employees are required to work additional hours shall be paid at the rate of 1.5 times the regular rate of pay. Basically, this is what it is now. You have to actually physically work to get the overtime. We're changing the definition of in paid status. It will now include holiday, sick leave, and vacation time. So if you take a vacation during the pay period, you're still considered in paid status, you're still eligible for overtime. Okay, this is the big one. Currently, employees don't get any kind of longevity pay until they've been here for 5 years. What we propose and what's actually approved in the budget, so this is not asking for any more money, they start getting a bonus at 1 year. They have to complete the first year and they'll get 1.5% of their income. So just an example, 20-year employee making $50,183. Under the current plan, they would get $1,000 on their 20th employment anniversary. New plan, look at 1756. Oh, sorry, sorry.
Not by touching. That's fine.
1756.41. So we're hoping that's gonna be more of an incentive for people to stick around. Higher education tuition reimbursement has been in there as it could be budgeted. We're gonna put a little more emphasis on it, and we're hoping that more people take advantage of it. You can go to school, just core courses that will help you do your job better, or maybe you into another job here, are technically pretty much gonna be free. You just have to work with your supervisor and make sure that we're not overstepping anything. Because of insurance, what's it called, tort,
Governmental Tort Liability Act.
we have not been allowed to take city vehicles across state lines. But because we have a pretty robust insurance plan now, if an employee's residence is outside of Hamilton County, the city manager's written discretionary approval is required before use of an after-hours take-home vehicle. That means if you get city manager's approval because you live in Georgia, but work here, and you have a take-home car, you need permission to take all the way to your residence instead of having to park somewhere on the state line.
Miss Perry, before you move on from that, the handbook actually says that city employees living outside the state of Tennessee are not eligible to have use of take-home
It's been
vehicles.
updated. The one that I put out, it's been
That you
updated.
provided us copies with? Okay.
No, not the one. The one that you asked me to put on the website, it's been updated.
Okay. No, this is just the printed one that we got.
Rob, we had another meeting after.
That got updated. Okay. I just wanted to, I remember reading that and I was like, wait a minute, that's not what the handbook says. Okay, thank you.
Okay, current vacation accruals has been this forever. 1 to 10 years, accrued 8 hours a month, 11 to 20, 12 hours a month, after 20 or 16 hours. So because we have departments that work longer than 8-hour shifts, it has been adjusted to more appropriately compensate those employees. We have a voluntary sick leave policy where if somebody knows they're gonna be out for 6 weeks for some sort of sickness, but they only have 4 weeks, employees can donate their sick time to have that employee be called for the whole time that they're out. So in the past, it's been 240 hours that the donating employee had to have. We reduced it to 120, still 8-hour increments. It may not exceed 40 hours at a time. Eligible sick leave is not available if you're on workers' comp. And there's a maximum of 80 total hours that may be donated per individual. So if Greg wants to donate 80 hours to Davis because he's having surgery, that's all Greg can donate. Yay.
All right, well done.
Thank you.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
We have a motion from Commissioner Fairbanks Harvey. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that one.
We have a second from Commissioner Wilkinson. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I have several comments and questions.
Go
Sorry, you
ahead.
know I read this, so, in detail, and I just want some clarifications. And there may have been things that were updated since this printed copy was received, but, on page 5, I had a question about, talking about public records. All employees acknowledge and understand that with certain very limited exceptions, personnel records and the personnel file are public records. Do you have criteria for what are limited exceptions in that instance?
Not the question over.
What is not considered public record from the personnel file?
social security numbers, personal telephone numbers, medical information, the names of family members, and that sort of.
Okay.
So it's pretty close and pretty tight.
Okay, like identifying information and, okay. Thank you, Mr. Stoltz.
That's statutory, it's just recognition of the statutory. And it's included in the manual for the purpose that employees are not misled.
Okay.
Most everything is wide open.
Right.
It's basically anything that's used to steal your identity.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. The next page, page 6, just talks about the costs that may be incurred for public records requests, based on the MTAS schedule of customary fees. Do we have that on the website where it's like available to folks who want to calculate what that might be if they're making a public records request? Okay. Thank you. Moving on. Sorry, I have some little marks here. I did have a question. You brought up the reemployment benefits. It's questions like where it's kind of vague. It says that shall have their benefits, including original hire date, fully restored, subject to certain terms. Are there things that like exclude that from happening? It just says former full-time employees of the city of Red Bank who are offered reemployment with the department head's recommendation and city manager approval shall have their benefits, including the original hire date, fully restored, subject to certain terms.
Well, the terms would be if they left that they weren't in good standing when they left.
Okay. Okay.
That's right.
Well, I think also, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tracy, but if they were gone a year, their original hire date wouldn't still be the same. It would be advanced a year to recognize. It gives them credit for the time that they were here.
Mm-hmm.
Because right now, they don't get any credit.
For longevity purposes. Right. Oh, no, I mean, that's how I used to work for the state, and that's how they did it as well. Because I worked for 2 different departments for the state, and there was a gap. And so I got that time back from the first department I worked with. But yeah, I had a new hire date, right? Like you're saying, Mr. Granum. Okay. Thank you. Clarifying question about types of separation. It says at the time of separation, all records, equipment, clothing, keys, security cards, and other city property must be returned. I just had this came up in conversation, totally unrelated to this, but it made me think, is there a policy for discontinuing like electronic email, internet, login, security credentials when somebody, leaves the city or is terminated?
So we are in the process of reviewing our social networking and computer policies, which will be kind of a standalone policy that will be addressed in that as far as terminating all access.
It's a process we follow, but I guess we haven't actually done a policy.
But you're working on that right now,
Yes,
Chief?
that'll be
Okay.
part of the new policy. Yes,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Hold on, I'm sorry. Having to flip through all of this. Oh, in regards to the tuition reimbursement, in regard to that, I know you mentioned like if there's funds budgeted, do we have like a line item for that? Maybe Mr. Alexander can talk about that. And did we budget for that this year? I don't remember that. Okay, so what does that look like, and where is that line item in the budget?
Up here under training.
Okay. Okay, and that's for all city employees. Okay.
So each department would have its own training budget.
Is that
And
right?
they pay for it and then return the invoice and are reimbursed.
Or I took advantage of it this year and was able to pay them up front through the city.
Oh, okay.
It really just depends on the amount.
And my husband's in a tuition reimbursement with his employer, and he pays upfront for his school. And then if he makes good grades, then he gets reimbursed at the end of the semester.
I think it was kind of the same idea. 10 hours is less.
Okay. So under use of job titles, I wanted to ask about this, because unfortunately it has happened, that, it says job titles are to be used in all personnel accounting and financial records. No person will be appointed or employed in a position in the city under a job title not included in the job classification plan and not approved by the city manager. As far as checks and balances, how does that work as far as the city manager creating a new position for themselves, a new job title, and then changing the terms of their contract to move into that job title? Because that has happened.
The city manager can't hire himself.
Can't hire himself, but
Cannot.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah, he
But
he
can,
change his contract unilaterally either.
that's right.
And even if he tried to do that, the commission has total control over whether or not it happens.
So that would just come back to us for like a vote to say, hey, we're not going to let that happen, basically.
In sort
So-
of a far out way of thinking about things, yes.
Okay.
You, the commissioner, are the check. and
We're the
balance.
checks and the
As is
balances.
written contract.
Okay.
As is the, description in the charter. So
Okay.
any city manager attempting such a thing is totally boxed in from three sides.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Under personal conduct, had a question about, it talks about employees being representatives of the city, and are not to air grievances or complain to the general public about issues related to city employment. Does that bar city employees from giving comments at our meetings if they are residents? As long as they're not, acting as representatives of the city, it does not bar them.
If they're residents, they're entitled.
Okay. Just double checking that. I know seems like can be a lot of ambiguity in some of these things. Some the way some of the things are worded, and I just, for purposes of clarity, want to get that out there. I think there was one I missed. I'm sorry. Also, an English major was my undergrad, so.
Oh, the format.
Yeah, there's definitely some formatting issues.
It'll only get cleaned up, put in a balanced book that will be.
Okay.
You'll be looking.
Great.
Once it's approved and all.
So page 92, I have a problem, and I'm with this because it specifically is talking about job benefits and protection, definition of parent, spouse, son, or daughter. And it says on page 92, the city of Red Bank does not recognize same-sex marriage for purposes of the personnel policies or regulations or for any purpose unless mandated by the laws of the state of Tennessee, but that's protected under federal law. So I don't understand how we can have that in our personnel policy.
Let us look at that.
Okay, excellent. Because we have another vote, so that's why I'm, bringing up some of these things.
I don't think any of that was changed. That's just old
Old.
legacy stuff.
Right,
Yeah.
and I figured as much, and that's why I just wanted to kind of put it on the radar. I had a question on page 112, down under B regarding grievance and complaints. It says the city does not provide a formal grievance process. Is there a reason that we don't do that?
Because MTS recommended that we not do that.
Okay, so I know it goes on to say, talk with your supervisor and kind of escalate up the chain of command and so on and so forth. Again, like I said, working for the state government, we did have a formal grievance policy. And I think for me, that was nice because there was like thinking about there being a paper trail as far as somebody, like an employee saying something happened or alleged that something happened. So I just didn't know where that came from. And the last thing, which I think I'm going to have to go back to the beginning on that. Yeah, on page 2. Sorry, this is the last thing. It talks about, this is under purpose, no contract created, employment at will. And it talks about these regulations, shall apply to all employees of the city of Red Bank without regard to race, color, religion, gender, age, national origin, disability, military status, genetic information, or political affiliation. There's a couple of other places, I think with regard to like harassment and protected classes of folks, and there's not consistency with those terms. So I would just ask if we could look at that. Like for instance, on page 111, it talks about not allowing discrimination against someone based on their gender identity, but that's not included on this page. So, and then
there are a couple of standards, depends on which one you're looking at.
okay. Yeah, there's like one, I can't remember what the page number is, but there was another page number that has like that kind of broad classes. And I just didn't know if there should be like consistency between those three.
I can tell you, Vice Mayor, there was a great effort to be consistent. So if it isn't consistent, if there's some possibility it was an oversight, because it is in a lot of places.
Yes.
But probably to Tracy's point, there's probably cause in that particular look at a personnel issue. It might source back to a statute that is actually different.
Okay.
So we'll check into that.
Okay.
We share your passion for consistency on that specific list of protected classes, because it was a lot worse in the old document.
Mhm.
We put it in fewer locations, first of all, which adds to the consistency thing, but we made an effort to be consistent.
Great.
Because it's not just a random list of good ideas.
Right.
It's like law.
Right. That's right. Okay. I think that's everything.
Vice Mayor, can I ask a couple questions?
Sure.
Just to clarify, you weren't talking about me as city manager.
No, absolutely not.
Okay, good. I didn't come out and I just wanted to.
For the record, no.
Time's long past.
And Mayor, do you mind if I add a little bit?
Please.
In the resolution, which we haven't really taken a look at, because the resolution itself is separate from the manual, there's just really some good stuff there.
The ordinance?
The ordinance.
Yes, ma'am, thank you, the ordinance, the list of whereas. I wanted to highlight the fact, the journey the city has made in this process. When I started the job on the 11th of October in 2021, on the 1st of November, just in a couple of weeks, there was an email exchange between myself and Mayor Holly Berry that highlighted the need for improvement in the space. And I think it was on everybody's mind. It was pretty obvious to me when I took the job. And one of the first things we did was we engaged MTAS. And so throughout this whole process has been a partnership with MTAS, and specifically their subject matter expert is a total superstar, Betsy Cunningham. She is the MTAS HR East Tennessee go-to resource. She came out and met with us a number of times. The entire city leadership team came together. Our first meeting was the 8th of December, 2021. And so we've been chipping away at this since that long. And the city leadership team is basically all the salaried employees, plus MTAS, Betsy Cunningham. And we've probably had a half a dozen half-day meetings to really hammer this out. And it was one other thing that's very significant. In the middle of that journey, the commission created a human resources director position. And in that intervening time, Tracy has actually filled that position brilliantly and actually been credentialed by the Society for Human Resources Management as a credentialed HR manager. So we've come a long way, and it really shows in this document. It's just spectacular. A lot of the wonky things that Tracy listed off really recognize the fact that we have firefighters and law enforcement professionals on the team. The old HR manual kind of read as if we were all 8-hour office employees. And so the particulars around holiday and leave that are unique to those, and they actually have separate statutes that cover them from a personnel management standpoint. We incorporated that in here. That's kind of wonky behind the scenes stuff. A lot of us in Red Bank have come to Red Bank mid-career, myself included, Tracy included. In fact, almost everyone on the city leadership team and many of the people that we introduced tonight came to us as mid-career. And a lot of our old policies essentially penalized people, not only when they came to us, assuming they would start, very junior level leave accumulation, but if they left and came back, we would punish them. And we actually want to welcome them back. Our perspective now is if you leave and realize, hey, I had a pretty good gig there at Red Bank, come on back. And we really want those people to come back. And we have had people come back, particularly in the law enforcement world. Turns out Chief runs a great shop. And Red Bank community is a great community to be a police officer in. The way you're treated on the street, the way the community respects you. So people want to come back. And we didn't want our own personnel policies to get in the way of that. So that's part of it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I know you guys have been hard at work at this for a long time, so.
Very
Bravo to finally be dragging this one kicking and screaming across the finish line.
Especially Tracy. Tracy has gotten probably 500 hours on this thing, just you personally. Yeah.
It would not have been possible without a dedicated HR title and certification too. So we appreciate you taking going the extra mile. Even though HR professional recognition was last time. we still appreciate you. All right, so we have a motion and a second. We've discussed some potential modifications. I assume those can be addressed between the first and second readings. Okay. In that case, are there any comments from the residents present? Okay, if there are no more comments, then Ms. Perry, will you call the vote for us?
Mayor Barry,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dalton,
Yes.
Commissioner Fairbanks Harvey,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips is absent, Commissioner Wilkinson.
Yes.
Motion carries on first reading, and we'll have a second reading October 17th. Now is the time for citizen comments for items not on the agenda. Mr. Granum?
Thank you, Mayor. This is the time for citizen comments. Please observe these rules. Citizen comments are limited to 3 minutes or less, and the city of Recorder will operate the timer visible on the dais. Please respect her direction and conclude any comments as time expires. All citizen comments should be addressed to the board as a whole and not to a particular commissioner, city staff, or the audience. The commission is here to listen, not to respond or engage in back and forth, so please do not expect to reply during public comment. At this time, citizens are invited to the podium to comment. Please begin by stating your name and address.
All right. If there are no public comments today, then do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Oh, we don't have Pete here. To
I know.
jump on that.
Somebody else is gonna have to jump on it.
I'll motion. to
Okay,
adjourn.
we have a motion from Vice Mayor Dalton. Do I hear a second?
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Wilkinson. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you all for being here.
We did it.
I'm freezing.
Yeah, I was warm, and then now it's
I know, I'm
Like got my
freezing.
hands in an ice
I'm
bucket.
standing here like, yeah.
I am shaking.
I
yeah.
just turned it up at the beginning of the meeting and it's still freezing.
Yeah, I turned it up to 70 and then it went back down to 72 or 68.
One of the times I was really cold, I looked over and it said 71. I don't believe it.
Yeah, I mean,
Kale Harvey.
yeah.
Oh.
Probably.